Hello YouTube. Today we are going to be replacing a compressor on this LG refrigerator. This compressor failed and we will be replacing it. We have already removed the compressor and the filter dryer that comes from here to here, and we removed the two lines for the compressor. We already opened up the board. These type of refrigerators have an updated compressor, which is supposed to be a lot better. But in order to replace the compressor with the new updated, we need to upgrade the board or update the software on the board. And it has a plug right in here where our jig hooks up. These boards, I don't know if you can see it, but they have some lettering right there on the top. Right in here. When I lift it up, you can see it right there. This one says TX. So our jig has two different ports. One of them is going to be, for the VCC, the other TX. So whatever it says right here, that's the plug you're going to put in. In this case, it says TX. So we're going to put the white one in there, which is TX to our jig. First you put it in, then you turn it on. And just follow the directions on the screen. There we go. So it's checking the software. And it takes a bit. So it's entering. Press the button again, and it's going to ask you, replace the compressor. You say yes. You hold the button down to select yes. It's a yes, selected, and you press it one more time. So it tells you what software it's going to install, what model it is, and all that good stuff. And it's going to ask you to erase, yes, and now it's downloading the software to the board. It is very important that you guys do this. If you don't have a jig, don't replace the compressor because it's not going to work correctly. You can damage the compressor, and the software is completed. So you can now turn it off and remove the plug. And this board has been updated to work with the new universal compressor. So now with our compressor, this is the new compressor. So there's a couple things you want to do when you take it out of the box. And the first thing is obviously remove the little plugs on the ends. And now you want to sand it down, all of the different ports. That way you can get a really good braze on it. We have our acetylene torch kit right here. And we have right here, we are sanding it down. And even if you look at the top of the compressor, it'll tell you right here that you need to do the software update.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.
Alrighty. And the port for the compressor, it's gonna go right in here. And once again, we're sanding it down, making sure that everything is nice and sanded and shiny. I've seen some videos out there, people don't sand them down or don't do it correctly, then they have issues down the line. And they wonder why the job isn't correct or good. goes with the service. Heat it up. That's totally red. And as you can see, it's glowing and it's glowing totally red and ready to start blazing. And that's it. As easy as 1, 2, 3. Alrighty, now we are ready to install the compressor in place. You want to remove the connector. That way there's no risk of it getting melted with the brazing. When you put it in, you want to make sure that you don't tilt it too much. Although you do got to tilt it because there is oil in the compressor. You don't want to lose any oil. There we go. Put the back one back in. And the discharge line that goes to the condenser. And you do want to use flux because now you're brazing metal to copper. And also you want to use flux on the condenser, on the filter dryer side.
Stuck on the compressor.
Now you want to connect all your lines first, at least your discharge and suction line. That way when you braze, you're not, stopping. You just, braze a couple lines at the same time. And that's your suction and your discharge line. Next, we're going to do the filter dryer. With the filter dryer, one of the things I forgot to say is you want to remove the core before you do any brazing because they have plastic O-rings inside, both on the service valve and the filter dryer. You want to remove the O-rings because the heat will melt it and they'll tend to leak from the valve. So we have already done that. flux because we're doing metal to copper. Whenever you do a compressor, change the filter dryer. It's very important. We're using an original LG filter dryer. These are very expensive, about 75 bucks, 69, 75 bucks. But this is our refrigerator, so we want to make sure it's good. But you can use the cheaper ones. Some have a port, the filter dryers, some don't. It's just a preference. I like with the port. Should be it. So compressor is installed. Next, what we want to do is pressurize it with nitrogen and make sure that we don't have any leaks. So that is next. Okay, now that our brazing is all done, we will start with the pressure check. What we use is dry nitrogen. Some people don't use R34 refrigerant. The right way to do this is with nitrogen because you're not supposed to release the refrigerant into the atmosphere. So some of these filter dryers also, I forgot to mention, have an arrow. Let me see if I can show you right there. So that arrow points towards it shows the flow of the refrigerant. So your refrigerant is going to come from the Yoder loop and into the capillary tube, which is going to go to the evaporator or evaporators. It's very important that you follow the flow, otherwise it can restrict the system. Some of these filter dryers are multi-direction, which means you can use either way, but if yours, the one you're installing, has an arrow, make sure that you install it facing the capillary line. Okay, so next we're going to start connecting our gauges, our manifold gauges. Since we do have two lines here, we are going to put the blue. It goes usually in the suction, which is a service port for charging, and the red is going to be the high pressure line, and that's going to go in our filter dryer because ours does have a service port. I like these because you can check both high and low pressures on your refrigerator at any given time at this point. The yellow, which is going to be the charging port, which we're going to hook up to the gauge of our nitrogen tank. Doing this on our truck just because we do have a lift gate out here, and it's at least we're not on the floor. We can lift the refrigerator up, and now we can work on our knees, and it's easier than being on the laying down. Got a little bit dark quicker than we thought, but we are almost done. So here we go. We also have a low loss fitting here to help control the flow as well on the yellow line. So now you turn on your nitrogen now that everything's hooked up, and we want to pressurize it to about 150 200 psi. And I guess we're doing about 250. That's more than enough pressure for you to be able to hear any leaks, if there's any leaks, or at the very minimum when we add our leak detector soap, it should be able to detect any leaks out of our brazing spots. And we like to use this one in the bottle, Cal Blue. We are not sponsored, but if they want to send us some free ones, hey, by all means. And you just spray it, and if it has a leak, you'll see the bubble, which no bubbles. There we go. Filter dryer, side one. And perfect. Put the service port. And the service port. Just everything looks good. The other way you can do is you can wait about 10-15 minutes. Just make sure you see the pressure that you're on right now. And if in 10-15 minutes it drops, then you know you have a leak somewhere. Alrighty, so it's been about 20 minutes. And as you can see, our pressure was at 250 psi and it's still there. So we have confirmed that there is no leak. So now we're going to go ahead and close our nitrogen tank from our little fitting, and we close it over here. And now we're going to release the nitrogen. Nitrogen is safe to release. There is not a problem. Just refrigerant or freon you don't want to release into the atmosphere. So we're going to release our nitrogen. Now I like to use the methane nitrogen to clean out the condenser. So that's what we're using right now. Just blow everything out. You can do this with a vacuum cleaner and a brush, but we have nitrogen that we need to release anyway, so why not take advantage of it? Now what you want to do is put the cores back in. Okay, now that we're all finished with that and released the nitrogen, we're going to reinstall the cores. The filter dryer is a high pressure and the service port is low pressure. Low pressure being blue, high pressure be red, so make sure you put the red one in the filter dryer. And the filter dryer has a little core remover on it, so just flip the cap around and you can reinstall it. Make sure you do this. I've been in a hurry many times and whatever, forget to put the cores back in and do the vacuum, and then when you remove it you have no core, you lose your vacuum. So make sure you put them back in. Now that you put the cores back in, we are ready to start setting up for our vacuum pump. Once again, blue hose low side at the service port, And since we have a high side, because we have a service port on the filter dryer, the red hose is going to go on the filter dryer side. Alright, and now the yellow will go on our vacuum pump. Very important you use a vacuum pump. The vacuum pump is to remove the non-condensables inside your refrigerator. So if you want to do this the right way, you do want to use a vacuum pump. Now, if you want to do it the right way, you need a micron gauge. Ours broke, so we don't have a micron gauge, but we will be running it for at least 30 minutes, and that should be more than enough. So we're going to go ahead and start this up. Everything's hooked up. This is a 2-stage vacuum, so we're going to start it up, and it's going to start making a bunch of noise. But what we're going to do is start it up, let it run on the low side a little bit for a few minutes, and then we're going to open up the high side and then run it for about 30 minutes, actually 30 minutes, and then we're going to be ready to charge it with the refrigerant. So here we go. And you can hear it like that. That's because both high side and low side are closed. And now you can see how the gauge is dropping because it's removing the non-condensables from inside the air and leaving it in a negative pressure. Alrighty, we're going to run this for about 30 minutes and we'll be back with the charging. Alrighty, so we're getting to the point where we are ready to charge this refrigerator. Now, we are going to charge it by weight, and the manufacturer tells us exactly what needs to go in here. So if you look here, I'm going to try to get in as close as possible right there. Right here. It says it uses R134A and it uses 5.11 ounces. So that's how much refrigerant we are going to put in. And if you're wondering, this refrigerator model number is LMX S2862665-00. So our vacuum is still going, but we are a few seconds away. So alrighty, so we're back. Like we said, it's 5.11 ounces, and our vacuum has been going for about 30 minutes now. And as you can see on our gauges, we are at -30 here. You can't tell on the high side, but it is negative, behind the 0. So we are getting ready to shut off our vacuum pump. We will go ahead and close both the high side and the low side on the gauges, on our manifold gauges. Alrighty, and since we have a little shut-off valve here, we're going to shut that off, and now we're going to turn it off our vacuum pump and disconnect from the vacuum pump. Now, technically speaking, once you disconnect, you're going to get a little bit of air into our hoses, but just from the little shut-off valve to the tip is how much air we got in. So when we hook up our refrigerant, we're going to go ahead and purge the line. So now we're getting ready to hook up to our refrigerant tank. This is our 134A, like we said, and we're going to put it on our scale. We are weighing it in. So we are gonna go ahead and open up the canister, turn on our gauge, and we're gonna go ahead and zero it out. Okay, so we are at 0. Okay. So we're going to open up our valve there. We got refrigerant in that line. And we're going to purge a little bit of refrigerant out of the hose. That's it. Now we got all the air, which we don't want in our system. And we're going to go ahead and zero it out again. Now we are ready to charge. 511 is what we need on here. There we go. So we got 1.8, 2 ounces. 2.2. 2.4. So 2.4. The other thing is we're going to go ahead and hook back up the compressor to the electrical and plug it back in. Now the refrigerator took in as much refrigerant as it was able to. Now we're going to help it out by plugging it in. Because as you can see, we are at 2.6. So we're going to plug the refrigerator back in. And as soon as it powers on, you're going to see that takes a few minutes. There we go. Three ounces. 3.2. 3.4. 3.8. 4.4 ounces. So far we are looking for 511. We got 5 exactly, with a little bit more. There we go. This one does by tenths. so we can't get 511, so we either get 510 or 520. So we went 5.2. And those are the pressures right now that it's working. We're at about 11 psi on the low side, and we're about 75 on the high side. You're going to find a lot of videos online where they tell you add a little bit, wait, they go by pressures, it's supposed to be this much and that much. Everybody does it their own way. This is the correct way. You want to weigh it in. You want to know exactly how much refrigerant is in your refrigerator. The manufacturer says it needs 5.10 ounces, 5.11, then that's what you want to give it. You don't want to guess, you don't want to estimate, because your refrigerator is not going to work the way it's supposed to. So, there you go. So, that is how you replace a compressor on an LG refrigerator. That's pretty much it. Now, this video has been edited, obviously, because, you know, we had to do the vacuum for 30 minutes. We had to do the leak check with the nitrogen for a few minutes. So we, you know, didn't want to make it as long. But this is pretty much how it's done. Well, thank you. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You might never do a refrigerator compressor replacement, just because of tools that you might need that you don't have. But at least if you hire somebody, you know what they're supposed to be doing. Alrighty. You guys have a wonderful day. Have a good night, good afternoon, depending on what time you're watching this. And thank you for watching.